I'm Myra Seha, and you're listening to Venture Unplugged. From deep tech crypto to direct-to-consumer brands and products, each week we dive in deep into the lives and challenges of today's most successful founders and investors. New episodes launch every Tuesday. Sign up for our newsletter at ventureunplugged.com and subscribe on iTunes or Spotify. Follow me on Twitter at MyraSeha007. I'm really excited about today's episode with Justin Kan, the founder of Twitch, which sold to Amazon for $900 million. In this episode, we discuss why he launched a new company called Atrium, how to bring your emotions to the workplace, and his daily habits for happiness. This is an episode you don't want to miss. This episode is sponsored by eToro, Qtum, and AWS. eToro is the smartest and largest crypto trading platform in the world with over $1 trillion in trading volume per year. U.S. customers can trade the most popular crypto assets with low and transparent fees. Best of all, you can connect with 11 million other eToro traders around the world to discuss trading, charts, and all things crypto. Create an account at eToro.com. Qtum is the first proof-of-stake smart contracts blockchain. It has been around for over 2 years and has over 4,000 nodes around the globe. If you're tired of paying high fees on other smart contract platforms, head over to qtum.org. That's QTUM.org and start building your own low-fee Solidity smart contract today. From Airbnb and Lyft to Slack and Twilio, the world's top startups build on AWS. AWS has helped hundreds of thousands of companies to build and scale their businesses. AWS has unparalleled insight into the unique needs that startups have and the opportunities that startups chase every day. For more information, go to aws.amazon.com/startups and follow on Twitter at AWS Startups. This podcast is co-presented by Blockworks Group and Republic. Blockworks Group is a blockchain events and media production company. For exclusive content and events that provide insight into the crypto and blockchain space, visit them at blockworksgroup.io. Republic is an investment platform that helps companies raise capital from retail investors. For more information, please go to republic.co. Most of you know Justin Kan as the founder of Twitch, the platform mostly known for watching other gamers play. But what seemed like a silly idea to most turned into a 1,500-person company and recently sold to Amazon for $900 million. What most of you don't know is that Twitch was a pivot from Justin TV, which can best be described as the first reality TV show, before Instagram, before Twitter, and even before reality TV itself. Yes, Justin TV was the story of the lives of 4 programmers living in San Francisco. But mostly, it was Justin with one of those big cameras strapped to his back. And if you find clips of those origin days, please post them on my Twitter. I'd love to see them. But Justin TV wasn't his first company. His first company was Kiko, which got funded by YCombinators' first batch, which included classmates like Mike Seibel, the founders of Reddit, and Sam Altman, who became president of Y Combinator and went on to found OpenAI. However, the problem with Kiko was that it was a calendar app that Google was already building, called Google Calendar. Let's just say it fell short of a huge success, and they ended up selling the company on eBay. I didn't even know you could sell startups on eBay. I guess you can sell anything on eBay. Today, Justin is the founder of a new company called Atrium, a tech company that provides legal services to startups. Atrium raised $75 million from top venture capitalists like Andreessen Horowitz, First Round, General Catalyst, and others. Now, enjoy the show. And if you like it, make sure you rate it on iTunes and share it with friends. Hi, Justin. Thank you so much for coming today. I'm really thrilled for you to be here today because you've always struck me as a person who's really worked hard at both achieving high levels of success without sacrificing happiness. Now, I've read your blog post, your tweets, and looked at some of your interviews, and I really found them inspiring. And actually, I've been mostly inspired by the one on happiness. And this morning, I was very grateful for you to be on the show.
Wow, thank you. That's very flattering. I wouldn't say that I've always balanced, working hard and success with happiness. That's more of a recent thing. So, kind of going through this discovery process myself and trying to bring it to obviously Atrium, my current company, and then also hopefully the audience of people who are listening out there.
How did Atrium actually get started? Was it 4 guys in a basement? Was it a handshake with an investor and then you found a team? How did you actually get it off the ground?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it came from this idea that I had while I was talking to a partner at a law firm that I had been a client of for a number of years. And I sat down, it was a friend of a friend. I just sat down with her and I was just asking her, why do you run your business the way you do? You have like a pretty great business, but you just don't use any software and you don't really innovate. And I was just curious, actually, more than anything. And she was saying, well, there's all these incumbent reasons why it's hard to do that in the legal industry. Law firms themselves are very decentralized. And so making centralized decision making on like things like pricing or things like adoption of software or SOPs is like very hard. So that started me thinking about this idea. And I spent the next couple of months, I was also looking for a startup to start. I spent the next couple of months kind of vetting the idea and actually really trying to talk to entrepreneurs, investors, and lawyers about like, why is this a bad idea? Why should I not do it? Really couldn't shake it. And so then I, really got off the ground when myself and my co-founder Augie went and we were talking to one investor, Nico from General Catalyst, and it was supposed to be like a 45-minute coffee chat. Mm-hmm. And Nico and I were walking around the mission, and Nico just said, hey, I love this idea. After 3 hours, you're like, come in on Monday. So we went and pitched them on Monday, and they wanted to fund it. And so then we were like, this is real. We should do it. One
of the constant struggles that you share with other founders is hiring talent. Do you do it differently than others? And what are your secrets to hiring and retaining talent there?
Well, I think, you could break it out into like kind of Silicon Valley talent and legal talent. So the legal talent side, I think that Atrium is very different and very attractive in a way because it's in a traditional firm, it's very regimented. You're not encouraged to innovate at all. You are not, if you think of a better way to do something, like actually, mostly you will be told, don't do it that way. So it's a very different than working in a startup environment. And so at Atrium, we can offer legal providers the opportunity to work in something that's more entrepreneurial, that's a conscious company, a company that's really focused on being open and approaching every problem with curiosity and bring your whole self to work. So that's like very different. And then for the Silicon Valley talent, I think it is a little bit more competitive in the market today. I'm sure you guys know, and the audience probably knows it's like the most competitive market for talent out there. So the thing that we do fundamentally different is that, we are, I would say, a very conscious company. Our goal is to, there's this book called The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership that I really embraced, which kind of described the company that I wanted to work at. Mm. And so, a conscious company is one where people take radical responsibility for what's going on around them. They approach all problems with curiosity, like what can I learn from this problem or situation? And they are able to bring their whole selves to work, including their emotions, right? And so, they're able to say, hey, I feel frustrated or I feel anxious about X, Y, or Z things, right? Which is something that mostly we're socialized not to do in the workplace. Right. And then there's many other commitments, but those are kind of three primary ones. And I think my theory, my hypothesis is that if we are able to bring this kind of culture into the professional workplace, that will create something that's substantially different for our team members. I really believe that, and I try to live that every day.
So now that you've unleashed all these emotions, are there any funny stories of what has happened with sort of
this
experiment?
I'll give you one. So it's hard, and it's easy for, I should say that like the proof's in the pudding, because for me, it's easy to bring my emotions to work because I'm the CEO, right? Like I have a lot of power. Mm-hmm. My job as a CEO is to make a safe space for other people to feel like they can as well, which is harder, right? They're taking more of a risk than I'm taking, right? If I show anger or I name that I'm angry at something, or I name that I'm frustrated, like that is much safer by nature than if an employee does. And I recognize that. So but given that, I'll tell you the story, like as I've been introducing this kind of a skill of being able to name your emotions. I was sitting in a monthly business review for one of our business units several months ago, and I remember I felt bored during it. And boredom is an emotion, it's a kind of anger, actually. And I felt bored, and I just said, normally I would have suppressed it and said, I'll figure out why later or ignore it. Maybe I'm just like bored with this kind of work. But instead I just said, hey, I just want to pause the conversation. I'm bored. And then people were like, oh my God, the CEO's bored. They were like, it was kind of this moment of like deer in headlights. And then I said, look, I'm bored. That doesn't mean anything about you. You guys are doing exactly what we set out to do here. And you didn't do anything wrong, and you're actually doing a good job as we've defined the parameters of what we're doing here. I think I'm bored because actually we're stuck talking about the tactical instead of the strategic, and we're actually following a plan that's basically no longer relevant, or we may not have addressed the like kind of core thing. So we keep talking about the tactical instead of actually what the biggest problems of this business unit are. And so then I was like, what I think we should do is like you, the leaders of this business unit, should like go and tell me what go off and next month come back and say, here's the metrics that we want to move in this, for our business, and then we can have a productive discussion with the brain trust of executives that are in this meeting for how we can like move the needle on those things. And so we did that, and the next day, actually, one of the leaders of that business unit came to me and said, thank you, because we actually had a productive conversation the next day about, and it broke through something that kind of everybody felt like something was wrong,
right?
But nobody was addressing it because they were kind of like just accepted that feeling that something was wrong. So the real point of bringing your emotions to work is that your emotions are a signal. You have, first of all, you have them whether you admit it or not. People like don't want to talk about them, but you have them. They're like, it's every human has an amygdala that is like firing on like creating anxiety or fear or anger, or like these kind of basic emotions that they have. There's also positive emotions that exist out there like joy and excitement. But people have these emotions, and they experience them at work, right? Even though we like as a society pretend that they don't exist. So one, you experience them, and if you suppress them, then they just linger and fester. They don't clear. The second thing is they're actually a signal of something, right? My anxiety or my boredom or something with a plan, let's say, that's a signal that something is wrong. Or anxiety could be a signal that the plan is like, I'm worried the plan won't work. So there's something in the model that is my brain that's saying like, this might not work, right? Or it might even be like, maybe the plan is good, but it might be a signal that I don't have enough data or I don't understand. So, and if I don't understand, I can't fully buy in. And then even if I say I'm supporting this, maybe I'm like really only 50% supporting it, right? So it's important for me to like say, hey, I feel anxiety, and let's figure out what we can do to address that. Maybe it's I get more data, or I have to go off and read this again to make sure that I understand it. Or maybe it is there's an underlying issue and we don't actually have a full agreement.
What I like about what you're saying right now is that you also see emotions with great responsibility, right? So especially as a CEO, once you alert people of how you're feeling without providing additional guidance, it can cause a little bit of chaos, which is what you saw, right?
Absolutely.
Where people want to please you, and it just creates even more anxiety without that context of why or how or ways that they can fix it.
It's very important that you communicate them in a nonviolent way, right? It's not like people might use me saying this as an excuse to say, like, to have an angry outburst, right? And they're like, oh, I'm just showing my emotions. Well, no, that's not really what it's about. If you're saying like something angry, like you fucked up, right? That is not cool. That's not actually being in touch with your emotions. Being able to say, I feel frustrated and I want to dig into why. And it's not about you. You didn't do anything. You are not making me frustrated. I made myself frustrated. But I want to understand what are the circumstances that have led to that. It's like a subtle difference, but it's very important, because in one scenario, I'm attacking you, and in another scenario, I'm in a process of self-discovery to understand more about myself,
right.
And then hopefully the circumstances that I am in.
What have been the major challenges that are different from doing Atrium now versus Justin TV?
Yeah, I mean, there's like infinite differences, right? I was a terrible manager back then. I mean, the challenges back then were basic stuff. I was not a good manager, did not understand business strategy. I did not understand how to do product development in a sane way. Kind of got lucky in a way to stumble on a product that actually had product market fit fairly early on. So there was real basic skills that I was lacking because I'd never worked at a job before. This was my first job out of college, was to start a startup. And so this time, I feel like I have a lot more skills. A lot of the challenges are how to scale a fast-growing organization in a way where people have empathy for each other. It's a high-trust environment. People collaborate. Instead of having large number of highly motivated, high-powered ICs that kind of don't work together as a team. How do you make that into one team, especially when people have not worked together before and they're coming from very different cross-functional areas?
Now for a quick word about our sponsors, and we'll be right back. eToro's crypto trading made easy. It's one of the largest and smartest trading platforms in the world with low fees. Join 11 million other traders and create an account at eToro.com. In addition to being one of the best smart contracts blockchain in the world, with extremely low fees and easy-to-use platform, Qtum's proof-of-stake system lets anyone stake with as little as a fraction of a Qtum. To learn more and start building today, go to qtum.org. Let us switch gears for a little bit and talk more about you and sort of this newfound meditation and all these great habits. Your blog post, right, talks about giving up drinking, daily meditation, exercise, and including the gratitude journal that we talked about at the beginning of the show. What inspired that post?
Sure. So zooming back, when I started Atrium, I had a lot of egoic goals in mind, right? Like I was like, I want to start a company that's bigger than Twitch. I want to grow fast. I want to work with great investors, et cetera, right? Very unhealthy, to be honest. And subsequently, because I had a lot of expectations wound up into it, I was torturing myself mentally, not physically, with I was like, oh, it's not good enough. And I was very stressed out. And that was weird to me because I had recognized being stressed, the same stress that I'd had in previous startups and Justin TV, et cetera. But I was confused because now, I have a very nice life, have had success. Atrium, if it didn't work, I would still be fine, right? Actually, I'd probably have been fine before, but I just didn't recognize that. And so I was confused, and to remedy my confusion, I was like, I thought I need to figure out some ways to deal with this stress. And so I started researching and learning and really getting a lot of advice from coaches and friends of mine on different things I could do. And so developed this set of practices. I mean, developed is like strong. I've adopted a bunch of set of practices really other people recommended to me that really worked for me. So those things were, starting meditation, really started on Headspace, but then it became a daily habit and learned transcendental meditation at the recommendation of a friend. So started doing TM. So every day for the last 76 days or 176 days.
That's your streak right now?
That's my streak. Yeah. Unbroken streak.
To this day. Okay.
To this
Great.
day. Yeah. Very proud of myself, actually.
That's awesome.
Gratitude journal started about a year ago. I think I've written my gratitude journal like every day except for maybe 7 of those days in the last year. Just being really religious about my exercise. So making sure I exercise every day, even if it's just 5 minutes on the rowing machine. And so I'm 72-day streak on that. I realized that I'd always use drinking as an escape valve for whatever I was running from. So, running, not physically running from, but there's maybe we didn't hit our numbers in one month, or maybe I didn't get this hire that I really wanted to get at the startup or whatever. There's going to be ups and downs no matter what every day in a startup. And I would use drinking. I would drink as a way to escape from the emotions that I would feel about that. My emotions primarily being like guilt, or anxiety or sadness or whatever. And so decided I want to stop doing that. So I quit drinking. That was 92 days ago. And I've just been doing all this different stuff. So then I wrote it into a Google Doc, not really as a blog post, just to share with friends of mine, because I love talking about these types of things that I feel made my life better. And so started writing. I wrote it in a Google Doc, shared it with a few people. They really loved it. And then eventually I felt like maybe other people would like it as well. So I just posted it on my Medium. Yeah, pretty simple.
And I'm sure you've had a tremendous response, right, from it? Or
yeah, I've had people seem to really like it. It really resonates. I think in society today, we've built a society where people are very unhappy and they're constantly tortured, and they torture themselves with all sorts of things. Mostly, it's like this hedonic treadmill of if I just get X or Y, I'll be happy. I was doing that all the time, right? Like I'm like the poster child of that. So I always told myself if I just achieve X, Y, or Z things, I'm finally gonna be happy. And I achieved 10 times my wildest dreams, and there was no change. It wasn't like I was unhappy. It didn't make it worse. It just was the same. So it kind of let down. And I've realized that happiness is intrinsic. It's what happens inside here, right? And actually all these external things in the extrovert world that you chase all the time are kind of irrelevant to your long-term happiness. And I think that many other people feel that way, even if they can't articulate it. And so the ability to write this out and then send it to people and have them, and that experience of them saying, this is what I feel, and thank you for writing this, that's been a joy for me.
So I definitely agree with a lot of what you've been saying, and I agree with you that it has been a journey, right, to come to that realization that happiness is this moment rather than the achievement of X, and that takes some time for certain people. But do you struggle with this at all? A lot of people do, is that once you become this level of happiness, do you still have your edge? Could that, if you had been that happy, could you have built Twitch?
Well, a lot of friends of mine say, I've had this conversation 24 times, probably more actually, in the last year, which is people saying, well, that's my edge. Like, I torture myself, so it's my edge. I'm always worried about what's going to happen, so I see around corners or whatever. And I don't think that's true. I'm still engaged at Atrium. I still show up every day and work at a startup that has lots of ups and downs. And I do that not out of fear, but out of joy. Mm-hmm. And the joy is I get to work with people who I'm really excited about. I get to live in my zone of genius, which is the things that I'm excellent at, that I love doing, that give me energy. And I get to partner with people who get to live in their zone of genius, which is, the things that give them energy that they're excellent at, which are different than mine, right? And so I feel like I've created a system in a company where I have a lot of joy every day. And that's my primary motivator, not fear.
Not fear.
And I think that's not to say fear can't be a motivator to make you very successful. Fear has been a motivator for most people in corporate America, or probably corporate the world, to make them very successful. But at a certain point, you have to ask yourself, how do you want to live your life, right? Like, and after I asked myself that, it turns out the answer was this.
What has surprised you the most of this newfound journey?
One thing that I think is very surprising is I always used to be someone who chased new stimulation. I think many founders actually probably will recognize this in themselves. So I'm the type of kid who, when I would not have anything to read, I'd be reading the side of a cereal box, right? At breakfast.
I've done my fair share of cereal boxes.
And I was just not okay being bored,
yeah.
Right? And as I've meditated more and more, I've noticed, at first I was checking the timer every 3 minutes. I was look, did I get to 20 minutes yet? No, it's only been 3 minutes, right? And then 6 minutes, then 9, right? And now I noticed I don't check the timer anymore, right? And I think that I've also noticed I'm okay in uncomfortable situations much more than I ever was before. I'm okay just being in that situation and saying, hey, I recognize my discomfort, and that's okay. I don't have to immediately make a change. I don't have to. Most people will reflexively try to change their discomfort. And I think that's huge for me as somebody who was so distractible and so much always chasing some stimulation or avoidant of, negative experiences. That's been huge for me.
Excellent. And is there anything at this point then that keeps you up at night? You seem to be very zen and calm now. Do you still have any fears, or do you just deal with them as they come?
I'm sure I have fears. I'm not I'm on the journey. I think a lot of people are oh my God, you're so advanced. But actually, I'm just some guy on this journey, right? And a lot of this stuff is super new for me within 1 year. And so I'm sure I have fears. I can't name them right now, but I'm sure they exist.
So first of all, I really want to thank you for being so candid and opening up to us about your process and going through this. But before we jump into the rapid fire questions, I want to end up on a happy note. Can you talk to us on the last time you had peak happiness?
The last time I had peak happiness, there was a moment this last weekend, actually. I was meditating out on my deck, and the sun was shining down on me, and I thought, I had this experience where I felt very close to the divine. It's a very spiritual experience. And I felt like if I could have that experience, this is during the meditation, then I was worthy of love, of self-love. And I started crying. It was very cathartic. I was just sobbing to myself in that realization. And I have always thought that I was someone who had a lot of self-love, actually, which I think I do. But that was like a very joyful moment for me. I know it sounds like intense maybe, but it was a very joyful moment. Yeah.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing. But I think that's what a lot of people aspire to, and it's great to have you share that experience.
The amazing part is that it had nothing to do with anything external, right? Yeah. I was just sitting there by myself in the sun, and it had nothing to do with like, oh, I sold this company, or I bought this new thing for me, or someone did something for me, or anything. It was just entirely intrinsic and entirely in the introvert world. And to me, that was very powerful.
Did you ever think you could achieve that before?
No, absolutely not. It's really because of the company, right? I think of having Atrium as a tremendous vehicle for self-change and self-actualization, because it has, the thing that's amazing about startups is that it puts you in positions where you have to learn. You have to adapt. You have to grow. And whether you like it or not, and growing and learning and adapting can be very painful at times. But you have to, and the good thing is that you will get the benefit of it.
That's great. Thank you so much. That's very inspiring.
Yeah.
Why don't we jump into a rapid fire question?
Sure.
How much do you sleep?
8 hours.
What was the last good book that you read?
The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership.
What's your biggest life hack?
Waking up at 6:30 and meditating in the morning.
Do you believe in God?
Yes.
Do you believe you're lucky?
Absolutely. I'm like the luckiest guy in Silicon Valley.
At Twitch, which round was the hardest?
Probably the Series A1 would have been a B, but it was too hard.
Okay. What surprised you the most about your customers?
That's a good one. What surprised us most about our customers? I think how much customers want to be part of a community, actually.
Who are founders that you admire?
Elon Musk, of course. Probably number one. Mark Benioff.
Why on those?
Elon Musk, he has the most dedication and determination of anyone. He's such grit, right? That's incredible. He's changing the world. I mean, probably everyone says that, right? Mark Benioff, I think he's really built a culture-first company that has like a strong cultural values and really lives out their values, and he champions their values. And I think he's a very product and customer-focused CEO.
What was the worst advice you've ever received?
The worst advice I ever received, we didn't take it, but like, and who knows, it could have been good advice, but at the time we were like, I don't know about this. Paul Graham actually told us that with Justin TV, we should go to LA and get all the unemployed actors to like stream on it, which actually probably is good advice. We were like, what are you talking about? That could have become, Instagram or something like that, or Vine, right? So I don't know. Sometimes like, I think he has a lot of like genius insights that are masked in something that sounds like a crazy idea, but that's what startups are.
What is one belief you hold true that others don't?
One belief I hold true that others don't. Well, it used to be that San Francisco might not be the best place to start a company anymore because it's so expensive here. Now I think other people like really hold that true. So I'm no longer contrarian. That was like a couple of years ago, though.
Do you still believe that?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, but Atrium has to like live in this epicenter of startups. So, it makes sense for us to be here, or a company like, AngelList or Republic or something like that. But I think for many other companies, it doesn't necessarily make sense anymore.
What is the most significant thing you got from a mentor?
So many things. I mean, for PG, with Y Combinator, we got our start at all in startups. I think I would be forever grateful for that. A mentor taught me how to program. This guy, Greg Shaw, was a programmer at Microsoft, taught me how to program when I was in high school. Those were two big ones. Obviously, this ability to kind of name my emotions, I think, has been a tremendous learning. That's from Carol Robin, who taught the touchy-feely class at Stanford for a long time. So those are some big ones.
What do you do when you feel demotivated?
When I feel demotivated, exercise. That's a big one. Yeah.
Do you consider yourself a success?
Yeah. Yes.
What is one word that would describe high school Justin?
I think I want it to be liked. Oh, that's not one word. Seeking approval. Seeking dash approval.
Seeking dash approval.
Yeah.
That's close enough.
Yeah.
Have you tried teaching your parents about meditation?
I haven't tried yet. No, I should. I don't think I've seen them very much since I started becoming like a full-on meditator.
What is your superpower?
I am really good at convincing myself of things. So, like, strong belief. I have like super belief. Like if I latch onto an idea, I believe it, and I believe it so fully that it becomes very easy for me to sell it. And then that's a form of like catalyzing energy around an idea. And that's fundamentally what a startup is, right? It's like you're catalyzing a lot of energy and activity around an idea until you have enough activation energy that becomes something.
Yeah, against all odds, or seemingly. Large odds.
Seemingly. I think the odds are never as bad as people think.
What is the one thing you want to be remembered for?
Hopefully people remember me as a good person who helped others.
And what about your son or daughter?
What will my son remember me for? Hopefully he remembers that I taught him to be the source of his own approval and self-love.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing today. Yeah. This was fabulous. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for the questions. Those are good ones. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Awesome.
Thanks so much for listening to that episode. Whether it's solving a technical challenge, hiring the right engineers, or finalizing a fundraising round, AWS has the experience you need to get started. There's a reason more startups build on AWS than any other provider. They're here to help you succeed from inception through to IPO. For more information, go to aws.amazon.com/startups and follow on Twitter at AWS Startups. New episodes go live every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. If you want to continue the conversation, you can find me on Twitter at MyraSeha007. And I'll see you next time.